program. My name is Tamás Marácz. I work for the Danube Institute, and this week we will talk about the Israeli-Iran war, which is escalating, unfortunately, these days. And we will talk about whether it's a fortunate or unfortunate thing, the escalation. My guest is Maya Kadosh, Israeli ambassador to Hungary. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for coming.
Thank you, Tamás, for having me.
And I would ask the most important question first, and we go through the causes and the consequences later on. The US joined the war, and it's a turning point. Some say it's a point of no return in terms of escalation, but I guess from the point of view, the Israeli side, it's a good news that the US, the biggest power, is on your side. Which?
For Israel, this is a historical moment. I think for many years we've been under the threat of nuclear Iran, and Iran not only threatened us on the nuclear front, but also sponsored terror attacks against us. And what we saw in October 7th was planned and sponsored by Iran, then later on Hezbollah, then the proxies and the terror attacks against our embassies overseas. And then the missiles they developed that reach not only Israel, but also Europe. And on top of that, the nuclear ambitions. And all this time, they say they are going to wipe Israel off the map and they are going to eliminate Israel. And they use a language that's not only we are going to hurt Israel, or they really wanted us gone. So for Israel, this is an historical moment. The fact that the Americans got into the picture and demolished the nuclear program, it's huge.
But in this case, when the US joined, it's not only a regional one anymore, but it's a bigger picture behind the war scene. And Iran answered the happening with the threat of retaliation, quoting them, decisive response and targeted operations. They will target the US and Israeli interest. Are you prepared for this? I mean, there could be some terrorist attacks, there could be rocket attacks, there could be some surprise. I don't know the capabilities. The question is, are you surprised by the Iranian capabilities? And are you prepared for the new surprises in the near future?
So, of course, we knew that this war will come with a cost. And it started, the first phase was to eliminate a lot of the Iranian abilities to hurt Israel and to harm Israel. Every night we see that we manage to demolish more and more launching sites. We are hurting the rockets factories. But still, the Israeli home front is paying a very heavy price. Of course, we are also under very high alert when it comes to our embassies. But when you compare it to the historical achievement, I think the Israeli people are very resilient and willing to pay this price in order to make sure that their children will be able to live in the country for the longer future.
Is there any chance that your experts, your Secret Service, intelligence miscalculated the capabilities of Iran? So you probably, when a state started a war, and you started this phase of the war, we will talk about that, you calculate what could be the next step of the enemy and what would be your answers, and like a chess game or something. Is there any chance that your intelligence miscalculated Iran and you will be caught in a surprise, and maybe you mentioned the Israeli society, maybe your society is not prepared for the long time pressure, what the Iranian will do to you?
So the scenario as it works now is according to the plan. I think if you were surprised, is to the other side, is that Iranians' abilities became lower and lower as time passed. I think in the first few days, they spoke about hundreds of missiles being shot in the Israeli civilian population centers. And it's not the case, but I'm not saying that it couldn't be the case or it can be the case in the future, but it looks like the military operation is very successful. And of course, we should be very careful. And the society is 100% behind the government. You see
there are protests in the streets against the Netanyahu government.
No.
And some society members are surprised that the Iron Dome is not closing very well. So the Iranian rockets could reach Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. So there are some factors against what you are saying.
So on this point, there's no coalition and opposition. There's no demonstration. All the opposition leaders are standing with the government. Again, I don't think people understand how historical it is for the Israeli people and the Jewish people these times. I think, of course, we always want to have 100% protection, and not always it's the case. Even if Iron Dome is working 97% of the cases when there's 100 missiles shot, 3 of them can fall on population centers. And the fact that the Iranians are, in the end of the day, they are a terror state. So they are not targeting military, they are targeting hospitals, they are targeting buildings with babies, children, old people. So, of course, there's a price that we pay. And it's very, very unfortunate. But the Iron Dome overall works quite well.
And let's talk one question about the big picture, and we talk to the specifics of the concrete war on your land and the Iranian land. Just one idea: when we see the global picture, there are 3 major conflicts. Most of the conflicts start with the proxies, like the Russian involvement in the Ukrainian war. Back in 10 years' time, there was a separatist Russians in the Donbass, so they used them. In your case, Hamas, Hezbollah was a proxy of Iran. They used these organizations against you. Now what we see, there is a full-scale war, almost 3 years in Ukraine. The Russian state is involved. Now the Iranian state, Israeli state, for 1 year time, you are involved by your state, not only proxies. And there is a third one, the Chinese-Taiwanese conflict. And my question is, if there are 2 big-scale wars already going on, and there is China who is joining maybe in the conflict, they are all interconnected. The Russian, Mr. Putin, the Russian president, will accept today, this is a recording today, on Monday, just telling the viewers, meeting the foreign minister of Iran. So they're calling the common threat. So there is a front maybe against you and the Western powers. And if China joins, that's a terrible scenario. Are you prepared for this kind of scenario?
So I'm glad to say that the Russian and the Chinese, as of now, as of Monday, calling for a peaceful solution. And I think also the American president was very clear on it. He told Iran, we targeted the nuclear, we achieve our goals, come to the negotiation table, and save yourself in the end of the day. And the Russian and the Chinese are also not interested in a big-scale military war now in Iran, between Iran and Israel. So we see all the players in the international arena calling for peace, calling for a peaceful solution, calling the Iranian to give up their nuclear program, and I hope this will stay.
Is there any chance that your casus belli, and we are going to the specifics now, is false? Like in 2003, I was in the army in Hungary. I remember that day when we get information in the barracks that the U.S. coalition attacked Iraq. And when I came out, and I was a journalist that time, I knew how scandalous it was when it became true that the intelligence of the British and American side was false. Like no mass destruction weapons on the Saddam Hussein's army. Is there any chance that you invade Iran and maybe you won the war, and after that it became clear for everybody, international community, that Iran had only peaceful nuclear programs and not a military-based one?
So first of all, the decision that Iran had the military nuclear wasn't Israel. So it came from the IAEA, and all the reports, especially the last one, say that they are enriching much more than what they had to. 60% are the only country that claims to have peaceful nuclear program that enriched to 60%. There is no need to enrich to 60%, and this was decided by the agency itself and by the international community. Israel is definitely not going to invade Iran. We don't have a common border, so that's out of question.
So definitely, you are, by your intelligence, definitely by your American intelligence, definitely that Iran has a bad faith on claiming we only have a peaceful nuclear program.
It's more than Israel and the American. It's also the European, the E3. You will see the reports of IAEA and all the international agencies, and you know that usually the international forums are not very glad to be in favor of Israel. Or so if they already claim that this is not for peaceful aims and goals, so we should believe them.
I see. So this is a preemptive war by Israeli terms and justification, but many in the international communities calls you aggressor. You invaded not only proxies and not only nuclear facilities, but many claim that you are aggressor against a sovereign state, Iran, and the purpose is toppling the government. Some say in the past, in the Gaza war, that the Israel committed war crimes against the civil population and violates the international law by the land grab policies in Cisjordania and Golan, maybe. So they are very, and I'm not mentioning the international warrant against Mr. Netanyahu. So these are very, very serious claims against you. What is your response and what is the justification of doing what you do against all these odds?
Well, you have a lot of issues in the same question. I will try to go one by one. On the Iranian front, yes, Israel took preemptive steps, and we opened this war, and we planned it for a long time, and that was because we waited to act until the last minute. The enrichment of 60% was happening only in the last 6 months. Also, the ballistic missile program that threats Israel and Europe is being developed in the last 6 months, and the Iranians just declared they want to develop 10,000 more missiles. So if you look at what's going on now in Israel, in this war with, I don't know, over 1,000 missiles, they have to think what could happen to us with 10 times more. And I think when the international community criticizes us, and it comes also to the Gazan issue and to Lebanese issue, it's very nice to live here in Europe and have your peaceful life and criticize Israel for doing X or Y. But I think if people put themselves in our shoes and understand the very heavy price we are paying, what happened to us in October 7 when a terror organization attacked us and killed babies and raped women and was so cruel, and they think that they would behave on another way, or they think that they could negotiate with this terror organization and allow them to keep their weapons and just, wait and see what happens. I'm sure every person here in Europe, when he put himself in our shoes, can understand that we had no other choice, that if we want to live in the Middle East as a democratic countries with democratic values and defend ourselves, this is the only way we can act.
And all the damages coming with this, is it necessary? Like the dying of tens of thousands of civil population, that a humanitarian aid conflict, which you claim one, and the international aid organization claim the other thing. So these are the necessities of the war, or what?
So I think, first of all, I wouldn't believe to all the numbers that coming from the Palestinian side. Once and again, it was proved to be wrong. And also, in the end of the day, we are dealing with a terror organization that hide behind civilians. So every time, if you're going to headquarters of Hamas in Gaza, and you can see it for yourself, you will see that it's under schools, or under hospitals, or in the tents, in the humanitarian area. While, always the Israeli army, we compare it, that in Israel, when there's a war, all the citizens are going under the ground, and the army is coming and hiding and take shelter, and the army defends them. And with the Palestinian Authority, it's exactly the opposite. With the Hamas, excuse me, sorry, I didn't mean to say the Palestinian Authority. With Hamas, it's exactly the opposite. They take the tunnels and they keep themselves in safety, and they put all the women and children, their own people, at risk. Same go for the humanitarian aid. We will see that every time that the UN is trying to send a truck in, the Hamas is stealing it and selling it in profit to its own people, something that they got for free from the international community. So the only mechanism that works now is the American-Israeli mechanism that managed to feed millions of meals to the Palestinian people. And the UN is a political organization, so they don't want to work with the American-Israeli mechanism. Too bad, they can keep sending the trucks in and fail once and again and give it in the end of the day to the hands of Hamas, which is a terror organization, or they can choose to work with the only thing that actually works on the ground and feed people. And it's very unfortunate they choose to do so, that they choose to give their humanitarian aid in the end of the day to Hamas.
And the third one was a land grab policy, which is I think the foundation of maybe all the problems, because you call Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism. It claims that it supports the liberation of the Palestinian organizations against the occupation, the Zionist occupation. So there is a claim that you grab the land of the Palestinians, and we see the geographics that can be true. So what's the policy?
So the only framework that's there on the table now on negotiation and diplomatic is the Witkoff plan. The Witkoff plan calls for ceasefire, also to return of the land to the Palestinian people, and Israel once and again, and of course the release of all hostages, and Israel once and again agreed to the Witkoff plan, and Hamas once and again deny it. So in the end of the day, if you say, okay, there's one plan that is available on and is diplomatic solution and is being also supported by the international community, both by America and Europe, and Hamas refuse. It's very unfortunate for these people that live in Gaza. I feel their pain. It's not like we are in a war against the people of Gaza, but the fact that Hamas can finish this war in an hour, right? They can release the hostages. It will take them 24 hours, and they can put their weapons down and go out, and no one in the Palestinian territory in Gaza will be hurt. And they choose not to do so. So blaming Israel on that all the time is not the right thing.
I understand. Let's just go back to the Iranian conflict and what happened now, which you say is a historic turning point. It's like the American B-2s dropped the bunker buster bombs to the Iranian nuclear facilities, but we don't still see the proofs, and many experts say that we need weeks to evaluate what's going on. What's your evaluation? Did the U.S. bombers reach the targets and eliminated them, or is it a 100% sure thing or not?
We don't have that kind of information yet. It will take some time to understand what is the damage that was done. We know that it was very accurate. It was well-informed intelligence, and we hope that all the goals were achieved.
There are two legs of the Iranian army. You fear that there was a military purpose nuclear program. If the American action was successful, that probably one leg is off, almost. The second leg is a ballistic rocket program. And if you eliminate them too, it's a hypothetical question, of course. Will you stop then? Yeah, or you will continue the war even if you destroy the two legs, and the real purpose of your war is to topple the government of Iran?
No, definitely not. It was decided by our government and by our defense and security cabinet that these are the only two goals of the war: to demolish the nuclear program and to demolish the ballistic missiles program. And once this will be achieved, Israel has no more aims or goals with Iran.
So you are ready to have an agreement with the Ayatollah regime too, or only a democratic kind of Iranian government?
The issue of regime in Iran is not to us; it's to the Iranian people, and we don't interfere in that, and we don't. It's not one of the goals, and we will. I guess it won't be direct negotiation because we don't have direct relations with them, but the international community, once Israel will achieve its military goals, we will be able to have this stopped.
I understand. Thank you very much. And actually, my last question is two parts, two scenarios of the outcome of this war, the best possible and the worst possible. The best is what I already mentioned. If there would be a kind of agreement between Israeli and Iranian, even if it's a new government in the Iranian side or the old one. Could it be a peaceful Middle East? Because I saw in your communication that you posted a video like in old days when the Shah was ruling in Iran, that there was a common cooperation with medical and other fields between the Persian and the Israeli people. So your vision have the peaceful Middle East with Persians, Jewish people living together, maybe the Abrahamic Accords going on, more Arabic states are involved. Is it a realistic future in your?
Of course, if you ask me personally, I'm very optimistic about what the Middle East we are going to see. I think we are going to see a new Middle East. First of all, the Iranian people and the Israeli people have long tradition of very good relations. It's all nations with a lot of common values in the end of the day. We have a huge community of Persian Jews in Israel, and I see in the a lot of the social media, the comments and the wish of the Iranian people to be free. And it's also going to change the whole Middle East. Think about, we speak here a lot in Hungary about energy prices. So think about peaceful Middle East, what it will do to the energy prices and the ability to cooperate and have a landline between the Middle East and Europe. And I personally think we are going to face a totally new scenario.
And my last thought is that there is a worse scenario too. If the war goes wrong, and you will be the enemy of everybody, you will be the enemy of the whole Middle East. And if your enemies are restructuring maybe after this war, there could be a different scenario in the near future, and you will be even worse security situation. Do you consider that too?
I don't think this is a realistic scenario, because if you look at the Middle East today, most of the countries have been in a conflict with Iran, and they are I'm sure, very glad of what Israel is doing now, because it's also take out the threats from them. If you look at the history of Abraham Accords and what brought this country in the first place to be so-called close to Israel is the Iranian threat. So I think if the chances that these countries that are part of the Abraham Accord will now act against Israel are very limited. On the other hand, I think everyone understands that this regime was dangerous for everyone in the Middle East, and that it threatens everyone in the Middle East, and that it's a good thing that it's gone.
Ambassador, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for your attention. Viewers, we will continue probably in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye. Have a good summer.